Hello, hello, hello. Happy, what, Super Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, show number 2. Ah, so Ann has company tonight, so she said she'll try to be in. So Tim. Okay, did you change your avatar again? Oh, you made it. More interesting videos. A lot of stuff's coming out. But tomorrow I gotta meet my new doctor. She got me down for 11, 11 o'clock, so I won't be able to do a morning show tomorrow. But so we do got one Billy Bean. We got one crash so far. We got one, a little bit of everything. But I got a 4-parter on. Do you guys want me to play the 4-clip part of the Jerusalem tunnels? Have you guys heard anything about those before? I can't remember if I played them before or not, but they're short clips, um, under 5 minutes. Then I got the guy. Shoot, should we do the short clips first or the long ones, you guys? And Lucy, are you home yet? You got to work late tonight? Where's what? Who? Paul? Well, they're messing with my numbers, Paul. They always do that. We got Tim's in here, Kay, Lucy, and you. Yeah, they're we got people on just they mess with the numbers. Ann's listening. They'll be in here. So I want to play this 16-minute one. I don't think I never played it. So let me know if I did. If not, I won't play it. We'll get the long one first. This one's the important one first, so I want to see if anybody remembers this one. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Senior Operations Officer Station of the Central Intelligence Agency.
15 minutes.
For over
Let me
3
know if you guys
decades,
want to
I served in the
play
U.S.
now.
national security apparatus in various capacities. Shortly after the attacks of 11 September 2001, I entered Afghanistan and commanded CIA paramilitary forces, helping seize the cities of Talokan and the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul. I was the driving force and architect of the Battle of Tora Bora. I held the position as chief of Hezbollah operation in CIA's Counterterrorism Center for several years and concluded my service in CIA as a chief of station in Latin America combating narco-terrorists. Approximately 6 years ago, a business associate and I began working together as whistleblowers for the Department of Justice,
I don't think I've ever
FBI,
played this.
DEA, and Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. Our target was the largest and most well-funded transnational criminal organization on the planet, called the Cartel del Sol, Cartel of the Sun. The Cartel del Sol is the Venezuelan government and is led by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, Diosdado Cabello, Minister of Defense Vladimir Lopez Padrino, President of the National Assembly Jorge Rodriguez, and former Director General of Military Counterintelligence Hugo Carbajal, who was detained in Spain several years ago and extradited to New York. He is currently awaiting trial for narco trafficking. Venezuelan President Maduro has a U.S. indictment and bounty of U.S. $15 million for his capture. Diosdado Cabello has U.S. indictment and a $10 million bounty on his head. At least 6 other Venezuelan cabinet members and senior officials are indicted. In the last 20 years, the Cartel del Sol has stolen $1 trillion from Venezuela's national oil company, PDVSA, and embezzled $500 billion from its national treasury. It not only has, but continues to produce and smuggle 25 to 40 metric tons of cocaine every month out of its country into the world. The Cartel del Sol is a $2 trillion transnational criminal organization and the most well-resourced criminal syndicate in history. Through bribery and investment of its funds, it controls 12 countries and world leaders. It has massive investments in the US and European financial markets and institutions. As we conducted investigations against the Cartel del Sol and presented them one after another to the US Department of Justice, we noticed and pursued leads from the cartel's money laundering operations to the world of non-governmental organizations and election companies. After witnessing election irregularities associated with the 2020 US presidential election, we decided to direct time and resources to Cartel del Sol links to US and global election fraud. After an exhaustive 3.5-year investigation, it is indisputable. Smartmatic Election Systems was created at the direction of now deceased Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, and its source code, the basis of its operating system, developed jointly by Venezuela's Consejo Nacional Electoral and Smartmatic, was designed to allow election results to be altered without the knowledge of voters and the public. Additionally, the Venezuelan CNE holds ownership of Smartmatic's source code. Each time the Venezuelan CNE and Smartmatic update the source code, a copy of it is stored at the vault at the Venezuelan Central Bank. In 2005, a European Union electoral observation mission to Venezuela published a report stating the Venezuelan regime owns Smartmatic source code. The Venezuelan government signed that report as factual. Smartmatic's first election in Venezuela was the 2003 recall election of Hugo Chavez. The CNE director at the time, Jorge Rodriguez, at the direction of the Cuban Directorate General of Intelligence, DGI, hired 3 Venezuelan American computer engineers that were graduates of Simón Bolívar University, a Venezuelan university linked to the U.S. university MIT. They had already registered a software company in Delaware and opened an office for it in Boca Raton. The engineers, Antonio Mujica, Roger Peñate, and Alfredo Anzola, established Smartmatic at the direction of the Venezuelan regime, built the source code, and flew off to Italy to buy lottery machines from Olivetti to serve as election hardware. They succeeded in altering enough votes to ensure Hugo Chavez's victory in the recall election. Secure in power, President Chavez decided to weaponize this capability beyond Venezuela's border. Smartmatic would enter into the U.S. election market in Cook County, Illinois, and the state of New Jersey for Democratic Party primary races in 2006. In 2005, Smartmatic orchestrated the purchase of Sequoia Voting Systems, Inc., a U.S. company. Sequoia was a company that had conducted elections in the U.S. for over 100 years and had a 22% market share of the U.S. electoral market. Approximately 18 months later, the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States, CFIUS, began investigating the ownership of Smartmatic.
I hope it's good to play.
Smartmatic's Venezuelan connection. Smartmatic immediately put its source code in the machines, in the Sequoia machines. Smartmatic tried to conceal its Venezuelan connection by hiring a former U.S. naval officer, Jack Blaine, to set up a holding company, SVS Holding, to place its ownership of Sequoia in stock. In December 2006, Smartmatic entered into an agreement with CFIUS to sell Sequoia in 6 months. Antonio Mujica, one of the 3 original founders, then found a little-known election company in Toronto, Canada, Dominion Election Systems, that had only managed one small local election in Toronto. He arranged for Dominion to purchase Sequoia. Dominion, owned by John Polis, with that purchase of Sequoia, would inherit the licensing agreement for Smartmatic's source code, the source code owned by the Venezuelan regime, i.e. the Cartel del Sol. To be clear,
they were halfway.
Smartmatic and Dominion would ultimately sign an agreement that provided Dominion with the U.S. market and Smartmatic the international global market. The only 2 exceptions are that Smartmatic does elections in Los Angeles County and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was an issue they ultimately settled in court. In Caracas, in a building owned by the CNE, the Consejo Nacional Electoral, more than 100 software engineers, half in the CNE and half in Smartmatic, worked side by side. Their effort for more than a decade was to perfect the techniques of altering elections and defeating audit. In 2018, Smartmatic publicly, and with the approval of the Venezuelan regime, broke with the regime, the Cartel del Sol, because the Venezuelan CNE's theft of an election was so egregious. The techniques of the source code and machine operate and conceal a theft of an election when the spread of the candidates is between up to the 3 to 5 percentage points. As sophisticated as the machine is, it can be defeated with significant turnout against it. The recent 2024 election in Venezuela was also so blatantly stolen, and the machine could not conceal that massive spread either. In its place, a company called XClay took Smartmatic's place as the election provider in Venezuela. Allowing Smartmatic to exit Venezuela in this fictitious manner allowed the regime to retain its power and influence over the global electoral market. Smartmatic built a production facility for electronic voting equipment hardware just outside Beijing, China, and then shipped the hardware to a warehouse in Taiwan. In violation of U.S. law, the hardware was marked as manufactured in Taiwan and shipped to both Smartmatic and Dominion for use in U.S. elections. Dominion Voting Systems manages elections in almost all the swing states in the U.S., which determines who wins the presidency. We have evidence and witnesses that can prove the source code operating the election machines of both Smartmatic and Dominion and other election companies are owned by the Venezuelan narco regime. We have evidence and witnesses proving the machines are manufactured in the People's Republic of China. Every citizen needs to be asking, where's the DOJ, FBI, CISA, and where's the CIA? Is anyone in the national security apparatus defending our democracy or enforcing the law? And if that isn't enough to convince you there's a major problem, Dominion, in an additional step to conceal its manipulation of U.S. elections, moved its research and development and servers, which store swing state voting information, to its office in Belgrade, Serbia. In the Belgrade office, Venezuelan, Chinese, and Serbian software engineers maintain system administrator status over swing state elections and alter elections as directed by the Cartel del Sol, the Cuban DGI, and the Chinese CCP. The facility and its personnel are protected by Serbia's counterintelligence service. Swing state voter information is saved on Huawei servers in Dominion's Belgrade office. These servers are linked to Huawei servers in Hong Kong, China. For years, the U.S. national security apparatus has identified Huawei and its technology as a threat to U.S. national security. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, a component of the United States Department of Homeland Security, is responsible for cybersecurity and infrastructure across all levels of government. CISA has 3,100 employees and a $2.9 billion budget. In 2020, when faced with calls to address election irregularities, CISA did a conference call with Smartmatic and Dominion in order to better able to address the public's concerns and assure everyone that there had been no irregularities. Yes, it's shocking. CISA decided to consult the criminals in order to respond to the American public's outcry. In August 2024, 3 current and former executives of Smartmatic were indicted in Florida in connection with bribery during the 2016 election in the Philippines. Among those arrested executives is Roger Piñate, one of the 3 founders and current president of Smartmatic. Roger Piñate paid $8.5 million in bail. What the public will soon learn is that the bribery paid in the case was not to obtain a contract. The bribery was paid to alter election results. We have the CNE's source code, the source code employed by Smartmatic, Dominion, and others. We will surrender it to appropriate authorities. Source code, like DNA, can easily be matched with other systems to prove that they are from the same family. In this particular case, it is a family of altering elections. 2 years ago, we briefed a senior FBI agent in Washington, D.C. That agent, after seeing our 3-hour presentation with corporate ownership documents, engineering specifications, and witness statements, told us to flee Washington, D.C., that the FBI would actively work to destroy our efforts and seek ways to prosecute us in order to stop our investigative efforts. That was a stunning moment, hearing those words from a 20-year veteran of the FBI. 7 months ago, with our attorney, we briefed a U.S. attorney and 2 assistant U.S. attorneys, federal prosecutors from the Department of Justice.
You gotta know.
The U.S. attorney told us he would forward the information to the Office of Public Integrity at the Department of Justice. That U.S. attorney followed up with us months later to see if the Office of Public Integrity had contacted us. They never did. Smartmatic, Dominion, and their media allies will immediately point to the fact that Fox News settled with Dominion, paying U.S. $787.5 million, and that Newsmax just settled with Smartmatic this past week in a defamation case as evidence of Smartmatic and Dominion innocence. In Fox News Against Dominion, we briefed Fox News trial attorneys. Our lawyers were present when we did that. Fox News corporate officers refused to be briefed directly for that case. They wanted plausible deniability. Fox News corporate knew we had significant evidence and, more importantly, witnesses. When all the facts are known, Fox News executives and board will have to explain why they went down on their knees for enemies of the U.S. We briefed Newsmax's corporate attorney as well. Go to their settlement, but Smartmatic is not public. Any settlements with either company and their masters, the Cartel del Sol, the Cuban DGI, the CCP, makes it more difficult for those of us trying to defend the country and our democracy. I ask everyone to go to the website, stolenelectionsfacts.com. That's stolenelectionsfacts.com. Here you will find articles and original source documents supporting the claim that Smartmatic and Dominion are employing a source code created and owned by the Venezuelan regime with hardware manufactured in China that alters election results. I will follow with other videos and statements to inform and educate others.
Did you delete your own message?
Best-selling author Ralph Pizzula has written the book Stolen Elections: The Plot to Destroy Democracy.
Oh, wait.
It will be released in late October. Mr. Pizzula interviewed my whistleblower associate and I, and several of our key witnesses.
Sorry
this
about
is a must-read to understand one of the greatest crimes ever committed against the United States. This is an assault on our democracy. Again, go to the website, stolenelectionsfacts.com. Look at the timeline, the documents, and the original sources that are attached. Thank you for your time. God bless America. We go forward.
Okay, that should have been a new one, I think. I never seen it. I don't recall. But Pamela, welcome. Is this your first time in chat? What happened, Kay? Yeah, we got Paul and we got QP names and oh, Chico. Just be respectful. Let's play.
Trump's been trying to give us our sovereignty back.
10 minutes and one.
We were owned by a different corporation. You understand that? We weren't owned as America. It's deep. When we tried telling you guys this stuff is deep, you guys laughed at us. You mocked us.
What?
It is deep. Watch this video.
There has been perpetrated upon us the most heinous crime against humanity, and it goes so far back that you can't blame any of the administration because they are not a government. They are the United States Corporation.
Oh, wait. I did play this, right, Kay?
The U.S. government incorporated as a for-profit commercial enterprise in the legislature.
I don't remember playing this, but should I play it again, or I don't know what you guys want me to do. I'll move on to something else. Starting to rain here. Hopefully my internet will be all right. Shoot. Okay, see where I'm at here. Oh, that's what happened. Okay, then go ahead and block. Okay, I don't know what she meant by that.
What has happened, thousands and thousands of Tren de Aragua members have come into this country and perpetuated crimes. We have brought them to justice. We've arrested them. We've gotten them out of the country as well, sent them back to Venezuela. We're going to continue deporting criminals to face the consequences in their country. And that's our hope, is that we can continue to do this action now that President Trump has addressed Maduro and his wife and brought them to justice. And we'll continue to go after the other individuals named in this indictment. We have lost millions of American lives because of the drug trafficking that they have perpetuated on our people. And it's so interesting to watch people defend those criminals, these dictators, these individuals that, Maduro was not a credible elected leader in Venezuela. And to watch individuals go out and protest and make threats on his behalf is unspeakable. And so this is a time when our country really will find out who loves America, who wants the freedoms and liberties that our country represents, and how they're willing to stand up and to defend it like President Trump is.
Following up on
That was only about 2 minutes. Carol, and got company tonight.
because of the infiltration of our highest court system, and all charges are punishable by death. Because some of the demands were never honored, several states have been charged with war crimes. These are the following states that were just charged with war crimes: the state of Florida, the state of California, the state of Texas, the state of Tennessee, the state of New York, and just yesterday, the state of New Jersey was charged with war crimes, the state of Kentucky, and the state of Pennsylvania. Once the states are charged with war crimes, they have to stop all contracts. Certain police departments have also been charged due to negligence of individuals following commands. The police department in the district of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University has been charged with war crimes. The police station that is in the district of Jared Kushner and Ivanka has been charged with war crimes. The police department in the district of Trump Tower has been charged with war crimes. The governor of Texas was charged with war crimes. The police stations in Matt Gaetz' district have been charged with war crimes. 2 other police commissioners have been charged in the state of New York and Arizona. Once individuals are charged, it is punishable by death. Today, the commands went straight to sentencing. So it means that if police stations are charged, every individual at that police station has been sentenced to death. The feds in Manhattan have been charged with war crimes against the United States of America. The district attorney in Trump's district has been charged with war crimes against the United States of America.
I just found her on TikTok. I thought that was good. The one lady on YouTube is back on today, 4 minutes.
Margin call default has been earned. It was JP Morgan that missed its margin call on silver commodities. I guess the first thing I should explain to people is that there is a difference between paper silver and actual silver. The trading of paper futures in various commodities has gotten out of control and resulted in an entire derivatives market that, among the big bank players, affects virtually everything on the planet. And most importantly, pension funds are a specially protected class of obligations in a bankruptcy. If a company goes bankrupt, the pension funds take a top level position in the bankruptcy hierarchy of creditors so that people don't lose their retirements. And then the state does not get those people on its rolls. Actually, they should be enjoying their retirement, which was guaranteed to them by a franchise corporation, right? So pension funds have a protected position in any kind of bankruptcy liquidation sort of situation. And for that reason, they have a preferred status in terms of rattling money. You often see things associated with management of corporate pension funds that are kind of bizarre and weird and really shouldn't be allowed, that the managers today are taking money out and accepting funding for pensions that won't be paid until, 35 years in advance. And long story short, a lot of people in Germany lost their pensions over what happened this weekend. Thousands, tens of thousands of Germans who are at retirement age or who are already retired lost their pensions. Now, think about that in terms of what it would mean to you and people that you know if suddenly they didn't have the pension that they worked and earned and entrusted to their employers. The kind of thing that happens when you have a default by a very, very major bank player that, despite being solvent, is not liquid. What happened this past weekend is going to have reverberations for a long time to come. But the most immediate impact is going to be political, as those who have lost their pensions because of this and people who have suffered other irremediable harm as a result of it come back on the state, either politically or commercially, demanding satisfaction of the debt that these organizations owe them. We already have the claims against these organizations. The American Bar Association owns a very large proportion of the Fortune 500 companies and the banks, the British maritime banks that you're all familiar with and that you've been doing business with for years. The American Bar Association and an organization known as the Northern Trust is very much involved in the middle of all of this chicanery involving pensions and future obligations resulting from pensions and what are called social insurance programs like Social Security in America. The failure to meet the silver margin call is just kind of the beginning of a potential upset in funds which are dependent on not only liquidity, but on deliverability of actual commodity assets, not just trading contracts on physical assets that are assumed to exist and assumed to be available.
Okay, that was
I
a
use
short,
PayPal to buy this ticket. I'm paying it off over time. No.
short one there.
doesn't. The scale of the fraud that the Trump administration, with the help of great independent journalists like Nick Shirley, is uncovering right now is surely shocking. But President Trump has been calling out Tim Walz for his incompetence and corrupt leadership for a very long time. And Trump was right about everything. This is another example of that, which is why Governor Walz is dropping out of the race for re-election today. This is a man who can no longer even win the support of the voters within his home state because his policies have failed them. And now the great people of Minnesota, a state that was once known as the land of 10,000 lakes, has been turned into the land of 10,000 Somali schemes because of their governor. And don't forget, this is a guy who was at the top of the Democrat Party's ticket, the number 2. He was Kamala Harris's running mate just about a year ago until President Trump crushed them last November. And it was in large part because the president was calling out this fraud. And so this has been a day one priority for the Trump administration, Jesse. The Department of Justice has convicted and prosecuted nearly 100 defendants in Minnesota. And because of these new details and this new reporting that has come to light, this is a all hands on deck across the entire government effort. We are surging resources. You saw today, the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck, rest assured. It's a top priority for President Trump. And he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable. And I think the Department of Justice is going to find out.
Well, they should, because it's too much money to lose. You can't say, oh, oops, I don't know where it went, especially when all of those whistleblowers going crazy and the AG there, Ellison, acting like he was running PR for these Somalians. So down in Venezuela, there's a lot of action. And the country is thrilled with the precise, flawless military execution overseen by the commander-in-chief and the team. What comes next?
Well, first of all, I have to give incredible credit to President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio, our Vice President, J.D. Vance, the entire team across the board. This is undoubtedly one of the greatest foreign policy and military achievements the United States of America has ever seen. And as Joe Biden used to falsely say, we can now truly say America is back. Thanks to the courage of President Trump, thanks to the leadership of his amazing cabinet, and thanks, of course, to our brave men and women in the United States military. So now this exact same team of foreign policy leaders who have been running President Trump's Venezuela foreign policy this entire time will continue to do that. We have a lot of leverage over the remaining Maduro government right now. I know Secretary Rubio is in constant correspondence with them. We're going to make sure this country aligns with the interests of the United States of America.
All right. And congratulations to you, too. That's great news.
Good Waters. Got Doug video. Then we'll do Billy Bean. Chico. This one is 8 minutes.
Because they hate America and American patriotism and our own love of freedom. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. Shout out to the Quad Club, to my people that watch 3 or 4 videos a day. You guys keep the lights on, even though I'm here in San Diego enjoying my time with my family, even while I work. Here is Zoran Mamdani. In his own words, this is about the loopy lunatics running New York. Watch this.
And I am also proud to announce that I will be signing an executive order directing HPD to work alongside the Department of Buildings, the newly invigorated Mayor's Office to Protect Tenants, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, and our newly created Office of Mass Engagement to hold rental ripoff hearings across all.
They're holding rental ripoff hearings. They're going to try landowners and landlords in New York like they're criminals. This is a redistribution of wealth, normal communism going on here.
We will hold these rental ripoff hearings across all 5 boroughs within the first 100 days of this administration.
Insane.
New Yorkers will be invited to participate and to share the realities that animate their daily lives. I want these hearings to expose the ugly underbelly of our city, the rats that scurry through hallways, the children that shiver in their beds in the dead of winter because the heat is off, the fees imposed on pregnant mothers because of the fear that their babies may be too loud. I want these hearings to draw attention to homes like the one I visited on my first day as mayor. Homes where you can peel flimsy tiles off the walls. Homes where the pipes drip and rust. Homes where roaches scuttle across the floor. Homes where when you ask the tenant who lives there, when did this issue begin? They tell you it was when their oldest born was just a few years old. And when you ask them of their age today, they say it's more than 20 years old. I want New Yorkers who have long been ignored by their landlords to finally be heard by our city government.
Okay, go to war with landlords. Well, that's not the worst of Mom Donnie that I have for you today. This one's worse. This is from Brianna Wu. She's this trans journalist that I've interacted with before, but she said, I spent a decade working in progressive politics. They all talk like this behind the scenes. Eventually, I came to the conclusion they were morally unfit to hold any kind of power whatsoever. So Brianna Wu and I agree on this.
I think the reality is that for centuries, we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good.
Ooh.
And we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently. And it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
Especially white families. This is Zoran Mamdani's director of the mayor's office to protect tenants. White families will be targeted. Are you guys catching it yet? Here's N Wokeness, New York Mayor Mamdani's tenant director. Homeownership is white supremacy. These are her tweets. CEA Weaver. Private property, including the kind of especially homeownership, is a weapon of white supremacy masquerading as wealth building public policy. Seize private property. Okay, happy 78th birthday to the MTA, and thank you for getting me home from Midtown at 9 a.m. in less than 20 minutes. Okay, you're trash. Here's the Islamic radicals in other areas. This is a Palestinian Islamic scholar in Chicago, Mohammed, saying, are you ready for this?
Unfortunately, these days we don't repeat this enough, or we don't have this aqidah concept firm in our minds that Islam did not come to coexist. Islam la yu'la. And Islam ya'lu wa la yu'la alayh. And Islam is raised high and nothing is raised above Islam. We can't think of Islam that it came to live with these other religions in the sense that Islam is a religion amongst those religions, and they have a share with the truth. And they have a share of justice. And they have a share of, this worship of Allah, the correct worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Islam came to correct all of that. Islam came to remove the oppression of all those religions, and it is the only truth, and it is the only way to justice.
Islam, he said, did not come to coexist. What about all the liberals that have the coexist sticker on the back of their car? That just made me laugh a little bit. What happened to that? What happened to coexist? He goes, Islam did not come to coexist with other religions. So he's warning us, guys, get ready. I'm trying to get y'all ready for for what's coming. America will not fall to Islam ever. The heart of the American patriot. This is a Christian country. So they're in for a fight on their hands. And if anything, we're going to dismantle them and deport them all. Here's E.L. Jacoby with horrifying. Listen to these three professors from Virginia public universities. That's your tax dollars paying for these professors, discussing taking down the United States through violence.
In the moment that you grab the gun, like Vernon says, you're no longer oppressed. You're now free. How do we teach that in the class?
Grab a gun and you're free. How do you teach that in the class? Notice he's got the scarf, the pro-Palestinian, anti-Christian, anti-Jew, anti-Semitic scarf. Means throw the from the river to the sea. I think it's called a kafila or whatever.
Just to say that in the class, my students' heads explode, right? To tell them about violence as a revolutionary tool, as sometimes a revolutionary essential.
We actually need
violence is a revolutionary essential. That's being taught in your public schools, guys. Here comes violence, normalizing it. Wait, here's another.
To crash the U.S. settler state, which has incredible reverberations and literally strangles the tentacles that are reaching into the Israeli state.
So we must stand with the armed resistance and work.
How did I know this would all be about Israel?
Right now to end this impunity by disrupting the flow of weapons to Zionists. Because trust, the armed resistance will defeat Zionism.
The armed resistance will defeat Zionism. This is a professor of political science at Virginia Tech.
If it was an open battlefield.
Yeah, I've been humbled since October 7th, particularly being in community with folks, particularly when you're someone who has been doing this work. Why stop? This is a profound moment for us, right? And we need to dig in and go harder.
I think putting our bodies on the line sometimes to protect those who are more vulnerable, right? To eat tear gas when we should be doing that and not students. I think that's essential.
So we have to struggle to crash things here. And my students were very, very clear about this. We have to struggle for Indigenous sovereignty right here on Turtle Island. Like there's no way around it, and there's no looking past it.
Okay, so you're not going to negotiate. Are you guys hearing it? These are calls to violence, to normalize violence with their students. Should they be fired, merely fired, or should they also be thrown in prison? I'll let my chat know. What should the punishment be for a call to violence by our university professors? I'm Doug, in exile.
I had a crazy idea. We were surprised that no one had done it before.
Yeah, I'm going to play this short
Success
one before we play Billy.
Doesn't follow a formula, and neither do you.
The way this ton of cocaine got here, according to what the former head of the Drug Enforcement Administration told Mike Wallace, this drug shipment got here courtesy of what he calls drug trafficking by the CIA in partnership with the Venezuelan National Guard.
Let me understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America by the Venezuelan National Guard?
Well,
in cooperation with the CIA?
That's exactly what appears to have happened.
Until last month, Judge Robert Bonner was the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. And Judge Bonner explained to us that only the head of the DEA is authorized to approve the transportation of any illegal narcotics like cocaine into this country, even if the CIA is bringing it in.
Let me put it this way, Mike. If this has not been approved by DEA or an appropriate law enforcement authority in the United States, then it's illegal. It's called drug trafficking. It's called drug smuggling.
So what you're saying, in effect,
you
is
mean
the
what
CIA broke the law.
Vinnie Johnson's video?
I don't think there's any other way you can rationalize around it.
Back in the 1980s, the CIA was mandated by then-President Reagan to develop intelligence on the Colombian drug cartel. And so the CIA, with Venezuela's Guardia Nacional, or National Guard, set up an undercover operation, a drug smuggling operation in Venezuela
big deal on that
could handle the transshipment of the Colombian cartel's cocaine on its way to market. Annabelle Grimm was a DEA agent with 18 years experience when she was made agent in charge in Caracas. And she says that the CIA station, James Campbell, and this man, Mark McFarland, the CIA officer in charge at the center, told her that to keep the undercover smuggling operation credible, they had to keep the cartel happy. And the way to do that was simple. Deliver their dope, untouched by U.S. law enforcement, to the cartel's distributors, their dope dealers in the United States.
the CIA and the Guardia Nacional wanted to let cocaine go on into the traffic without doing anything. They wanted to let it come up to the United States, no surveillance, no nothing.
In other words, you weren't going to stop them in Miami or Houston or wherever. These drugs were simply going to go to the United States and then go into the traffic and eventually reach the streets.
That's what they wanted to do, yes. I look at that 1,000 kilos, at least that 1,000 kilos. I look at the fact, I mean, Mike, you're a taxpayer, and that was U.S. taxpayer money that built that center, that funded it, that maintained it. And I really take great exception to the fact that that 1,000 kilos came in funded by U.S. taxpayer money, and it hit the streets of the United States. I find that particularly appalling when you look at all the damaged lives that 1,000 kilos represents.
Okay. Interesting one. Okay, I've only got the second Doug here. Then we'll play Billy.
FBI, and now that he's
This one is
retired,
11.
going back into the private sector, apparently he's going to straighten out all of the lies being told about this administration. Not the lies that are destroying this administration from the left, but the ones coming from the right. And I'm going to explain this because we've been trying to counter those false narratives. People trying to destroy Pam Bondi's career with lies, Dan Bongino's career with lies, divide MAGA, and get us to lose in 2026. And Dan Bongino is on the warpath. You don't want to get this guy angry, guys. And that's part of why I'm a happy patriot. Are you happy too? You know, we're here in exile. It means you're kind of on the outs where lies are trying to take over the world. And in exile, we wait patiently on the promise. In Bible times, it meant the promise of God. In American times, it means the promise of the founders, the Constitution, and God to this country to protect our God-given rights. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And on that happy note, let's get to Dan Bongino right here on Twitter. Look at this. He says, "Good to see you all. I missed you. Thanks for everything. While we worked on cleaning up, working in the administration was the experience of a lifetime. I'll have some announcements coming up, but I'm taking a couple days to spend with the family. A couple of things. Thank you for your interest in the show and its return date. We will have something for you soon. The Trump team is not kidding around. It's an otherworldly experience from the other side. He's determined and focused. And having been around quite a few presidents, this one broke the mold." So that's a huge credit to Trump that guys like Dan Bongino get it. He says, now this is on social media, okay, because Dan Bongino has blocked a lot of losers on the right who have attacked the administration. If we blocked you, it's because we care so little about your bull that we deem it not worthy of even seeing. If you're bitching and whining about it, that means you can't exist without seeing and coming on ours. You'll need to get over that. We do it because there's nothing black pillars and anti-Trumpers want more than to create division and drama. Now, some of you guys need help with vocabulary here on what is a black pillar. It comes from the movie The Matrix, where he goes, take the red pill and enter the matrix into reality, or take the blue pill and go back to your life of with your eyes covered. Well, then came another form of red pill versus blue pill. So Trumpers are called being red-pilled. They call it black pill. Black pilling is when you believe everything is doomed, nothing will help, nothing ever happens, no one gets arrested. See? Black pill is a doom spiral, which, as you know, by our whole saying is we're about being happy. We're happy patriots. And I've said this before also, that despair is a sin. Despair, giving up, is when you go, just give in to Mordor. All the orcs are coming in. Everyone choose the method you want to die. And Gandalf comes in, and smotes Denethor and says, fight. Fight! Like Trump, when he puts his fist up and goes, fight, fight, fight. And Denethor, by the way, sets himself on fire and runs off of Minas Tirith, off the cliff. Basically, it's suicidal to be black-pilled. So Dan Bongino is coming to take care of the black pillars on the right because they're creating division. They're demoralizing the troops. They're demoralizing MAGA. They're getting people to think, what good is it if I vote? If it's not on paper, I'm not going to mail in my vote. I'm not going to vote at all. Or both sides are so corrupt, nothing matters what you do. Those are black pill statements. You won't hear those fall out of my mouth. You'll hear it from other channels. That's why you ought to subscribe if you want the truth. We've always been in pursuit of the truth. We've always looked to the good. We're trying to redeem and save America, not just sit here and cry in a corner and complain. That's not what this channel's about. You guys know that if you've been around for a while. As Dan Bongino says here, we're about results, and we'll talk about some of it soon. Love to you all. Thanks again. Now it's going to get deeper because now he's going to start tearing into some people, and you're not going to believe this one. He's going to shred Matt Gaetz by the end of this thing. Let me add this from the jump, so there's no confusion. I started in this movement as a candidate during the Tea Party movement, and I began my political commentary career shortly thereafter. I helped build the movement, and I sure as hell am not going to let it get hijacked by a group of black pillars, life losers, grifters, and bums. Oh yeah, he's coming to reform the right, guys, not the left. We are a movement guided by truth. The essence, and by the way, guys, just because a conservative commentator or a channel says we've got the truth with a capital T does not mean they're telling you the truth. You still got to weigh it. You still got to test it. Everything I say, it's trust but verify. How's that? As Reagan used to say. Run a movement guided by truth. The essence of conservative ideology is the preservation of eternal truths. We're not the latest group. We're not political cannibals. That is, we're not here to eat our own, right? I've watched quietly from the inside while doing the job I was hired to do, but I'm back now, and it's time to restore balance to the force. As we get ready for some announcements about the future of the show, I also want to warn the haters and the zeros. We've been at this a long time. We live for this stuff. This isn't our first, second, or 10th rodeo. We've seen a lot of dipshits come and go. We revel in making you angry enough to show your asses. That's who he's saying about the black pillars. He goes, it's glorious. So on the inside of the administration, they love doing and saying the kinds of things that end up making the black pillars on the right furious. That's Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, and a lot of channels telling lies about the administration. And anti-Jews, the anti-Israel folks are all on the right. They're about to get taken down hard. We've got midterms coming up. Thank you, Dan Bongino. He's basically underlying what I do. So this is kind of a vindication for me. I feel vindicated. I've taken a lot of heat, lost a good 20,000 subscribers, and that's fine. You know, all those black pillars, they're going to go to other channels, and they're probably all paid for by Qatar anyway, so who cares? The midterms are coming up, and there's no time for BS. This administration is cooking, and real change simmers. If you're spending your entire day bitching and whining with 3/4 of the term still to go, then please find the exits. He's saying go. There's no time for it. It's not infighting when you excise a cancer killing the host. It's outfighting because you're not part of any movement I'm familiar with. And those people are gone, guys. We've scrubbed them from that. They're out of this channel, that's for sure. Looking forward to big things ahead. Can't wait to tell you about it. It's coming. Now, hold on. This is where it gets good. So here's the fight with Matt Gaetz. So here's the no confusion. Glad to see you all missed you. Now here's former Congressman Matt Gaetz. Now Matt Gaetz has said one good thing about Pam Bondi, and I'm all for that. But here he takes a shot at Dan Bongino. Matt Gaetz says, Grok, when did Dan Bongino run for office and how did he perform as a candidate? This is Matt Gaetz asking a rhetorical question to Grok AI, knowing what the answer is going to be, that Dan Bongino didn't perform well as a candidate. And that is an act of war on social media. So Matt Gaetz is asking for it, and Dan Bongino is going to gun him down here. He said, maybe if I spent more time at shady parties with moneyed insiders, I would have won. I heard you know a bit about that. You've always been a dick, by the way. That's Matt Gaetz. Grifting off your daddy like a suckling little doggy. When I first met you in the Panhandle, I knew you were a piece of SHIT. It's written all over that phony face of yours. There goes. Matt Gaetz is on the outs with Dan Bongino. And Dan Bongino is no longer working for the administration, guys. He's allowed to do and say what he wants now, and he's cutting off the gloves and he's coming for blood. And this was retweeted by Dan Bongino. What's the difference between Matt Gaetz and a bag of dog, SHIT? Answer, the bag. Here's Gaetz is knowingly dishonest about Israel. He's a low-life grifter, as are most of the people that are anti-Israel, by the way. The people that say, America first, America alone, we shouldn't spend our money, blah, 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 we shouldn't help our ally, blah, 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 blah. Here's Matt Gaetz. If Israel's a democracy, when do all the Arabs who live there get to vote? That is a terrible thing to say. And then we're going to end up on this one here. Here's Dan Bongino declares war on black pillars and grifters trying to hijack MAGA. And he says, you're damn right I did. So this is a cool strategy, and I'll tell you why. Dan Bongino is going to be more effective in media, in culture, in influencing, attacking the enemies of this administration, and defending this administration from the anti-Pam Bondi grifters, the anti-Dan Bongino liars who are lying to you for clicks, trying to get you to turn against these people to weaken this administration so that it ends up losing 2026. All for purity. I mean, we want purity better than winning. That's what all these black pillars are doing. I'm going to join right on Dan Bongino's coattails. Actually, I led the front in defending him and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. I might have been the only one. And I'm not right all the time. You know, Trump could have fired Pam Bondi on day one and said, look, this woman, she's not doing her job. She needs to go. And I'd have been wrong, you know, or he might have said, thank you, but I want someone else to work. He could have fired Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and said, these guys are hacks. I was wrong about them. And then I would be wrong. But I wasn't wrong this time. I was going on principle. I was going on evidence. I saw what they were doing inside the administration. And what Dan Bongino's doing here is not a surprise. If you want to continue in the truth, instead of being sent off on weirdo missions where people lie to you for money, then welcome to Doug in Exile.
Do you need $300?
Okay, I got 2 Dougs in. I got a minute video. Play this one.
Russia. That's confident. I like it. Who says Russia? Anybody agree with her? Hands? Okay. Great. Who else?
China.
Stop yelling at me, but China is a good answer. Anybody? Who else? China?
North Korea?
North Korea. Any North Korea takers? And Venezuela? Anybody? No? Oh, yeah. One guy in the back. A little worried about Venezuela. Everybody's cool with Venezuela? No threat? Okay. Let me ask you this. Which one of these places can claim to have the largest oil deposit on the planet? More than Saudi? More than Iran? Wow. Okay, what about things like gold? More than all the mines in Africa combined? The fact is that Venezuela is arguably the single greatest resource of oil and minerals on the planet. So, why is this country in the midst of one of the greatest humanitarian crises in modern history? Let's meet President Nicolas Reyes. After rising to power on a wave of nationalist pride, in a mere 6 years, this guy has crippled the national economy by half. He has raised the poverty rate by almost 400%.
Yep.
Luckily for the rest of us, he's up for re-election. So, who's running against him? This is Gloria Bonalde. Now, Gloria is a history professor turned activist. She's running against him on a social justice platform and on the strength of, in my humble opinion, just not being an asshole. Analyst predictions, as of today, have the chances of Venezuela's total economic collapse at 87%. On the news, they'll call it a crisis. But on the world stage, they'll call it a failed state. You've never heard that term. Other examples of a failed state in recent history are Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. And if that's not bad enough news for you, Well, Venezuela is also the only one of these places within 30-minute range from the U.S. of next-gen nuclear missiles. You will not hear about any of this on the news because the biggest players on the world stage do not want you to. To them, unstable governments are nothing more than the greatest of opportunities. So, Russia, China, can never be the most major threat until countries like Venezuela leave the door open to our very own backyard.
Okay, that was a good short clip. I got a two-parter. We'll get to Billy. I just found this guy on TikTok.
Treats her so unfairly, but Lisa McClain just wasn't having it. She called her out. You guys gotta check this video out.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say no. It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it and the resolution is agreed to. And without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
This debate today, it's about who gets to be an American. What opinions do we have to have to be counted as Americans? This is what this debate is about, Madam Speaker. There is this idea that you are a suspect if you are an immigrant, or if you are from certain parts of the world, or a certain skin tone, or a Muslim. It is no accident that members of the Republican Party accused the first Black president, Barack Obama, of being a secret Muslim. Well, I am Muslim. I am an immigrant, and interestingly, from Africa. Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted?
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna pause this video as much, but I will say this. I think that anyone from a different country should not have a government job in this country. And she's the exact reason why. She got Omar Fonte a job, a part of the Congress, our Senate. You know, they're scheming and they're scamming. I don't trust the Somalians.
That's pretty good.
You know, the average IQ over there is like 68. That's way below levels. You know, and then 49% of them marry their first or second cousins. It's just a bunch of sleazy stuff going on there. What do you guys think? I hate when people try to play the victim also, even though you went from having no money to $30 million in 3 years. Like that's the richest victim I ever heard of. Let's keep going, guys.
Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy?
Yeah, she
or that
is.
They see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced. Frankly, it is expected.
Today, we're diving straight in.
Okay, I'll stop. Okay, I got one Vinny video and I want to play. I'm going to play this one here real quick.
From the Latin root septem, which means 7. October, octave, meaning 8. November comes from novem, meaning 9. December, decem, meaning 10. April comes from the Latin root aperire, which means to open a new year. And that brings us to the missing month, which could be known as Sol. It comes in between June and July. If we stack the months, starting with April as the first, this is what we get. April, May, June, Sol, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, and then one day of rest.
Okay. Don't understand that one. I don't believe that calendar that's going to happen. Okay, Billy has a 15-minute. Oh, wait. She has 2 of them out today, right, Kay? Oh, wait. I think only 1. I only saw 1.
The U.S. hit list. Iran guns down its own citizens, and Venezuela locks down its citizens and threatens them with jail if they come out in support of Maduro. So let's get started. And I'd also like to say thank you to Leisha E. and Becky D. for extra support for my channel. So we know that President Trump has come out recently talking about also taking action against Cuba, Mexico, Colombia, Iran. We can also add Greenland, and we can add Nicaragua. So these countries are on the U.S. hit parade list. So that's going on. And what's going on in space today? It's quiet, no flares. We do have this about Atlas coming out from Dabu 77. The CIA will neither confirm nor deny that Atlas is not a comet. So that's going on, but we did see NASA deploying the Planetary Defense Network against Atlas, and we also saw the U.S. military, and as far as I know, the U.S. military is continuing Space Force to block radio signals coming from Atlas. So that's going on. And it's coming out that the radio signals indicate Atlas is most likely under some type of intelligent operation. I say God is in charge, and it's good to pray against Atlas. We have this coming out in U.S. News. Senator John Kennedy, Republican, Louisiana, puts out that the U.S. government has stopped all money and has dissolved PBS, Public Broadcast System, which we know has been for decades engaged in anti-American, pro-commie, far-left dialogue. We have this. President Trump has now put forth an executive order that all states will have federal attorneys who will be involved in prosecuting animal cruelty. So way to go, President Trump. Let's protect our pets. We have this and other animals. We have this in politics. Stephen Gardner brings this out. Yeah. So I put out my last video that Minnesota Governor Walz is not going to run for a 3rd term as governor of Minnesota, that he's been implicated in the Somali welfare fraud, alleged to be in the billions. Now it's coming out he may not even finish the 2nd term as governor, but may face criminal charges. So that's going on. And in Venezuela, we have David Nino Rodriguez putting forth, he has contacts on the ground inside Venezuela, that the alleged president now, Delcy Rodriguez, has put Venezuela on a lockdown. And I saw this morning on ABC News a South American commentator saying all these videos you're seeing about pro-Maduro protest inside Venezuela, he puts forth is propaganda. And we have this, that the Venezuelan government under Delcy Rodriguez has put a lockdown over Venezuela and has made public statements to Venezuela citizens that if any of them put out on social media or take to the streets to demonstrate that they're happy Maduro is gone, or they say anything against Maduro, they will be arrested and could face up to 20 years in prison. So what's going on in Venezuela? It looks like a full stop communist government. And we have this from Deep Dive. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis puts forth that Venezuela, that the great U.S. military took down 100 plus inside Maduro's presidential palace to get to him, including 100 plus security. That included 32 Cubans, an unknown number of Iran military, and an unknown number of Venezuelan military who are still loyal to Maduro. But they were taken down by the greatest military in the history of the world. So that's going on. And it's coming out that this new regime in Venezuela, we know Maduro was taken out, and Maduro was the not president of Venezuela because in the last election, he simply overturned it and said he would continue to be president. So he was the not president of Venezuela. His second, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sworn in as the president.
Together, we are strong. Corewell Health. We can.
Part of her cabinet, which was Maduro's cabinet, includes two individuals, Cadrina and Caballo, who we understand and we're learning are also under U.S. federal indictments similar to the charges for Maduro. So could we see a second wave in Venezuela with the capture of these two individuals who are also wanted in U.S. court? So that's going on. Yes. And we have ABC News saying the pro-Maduro protest inside Venezuela appears to be staged propaganda. And we have this. Yeah. And people in Venezuela who in the past and currently that's the same situation, if they came out against Maduro, they have simply been disappeared. And we have this. Iran manufactures drones inside Venezuela that certainly have the capability of hitting the U.S. And a meeting is going on today in Paris between NATO countries and the not president of Ukraine, Zelensky. We know he's the not president because his term was up last May, and he simply outlawed elections in violation of the Ukraine Constitution. So Zelensky is another not president. So the meeting was held today in Paris, and we had President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, who we understand now is an ambassador. And it was to discuss NATO providing security inside Ukraine once a peace deal has been signed. Russia has consistently said it will not tolerate NATO troops, boots on the ground, inside Ukraine. So this looks like another not productive meeting. And we have this going on. Dr. William Mount says, yes, that currently riots are going on in France, Germany, and Ukraine because the citizens of these nations are being killed and raped by the Middle East populations that were brought in by their deep state controlled governments. And the citizens are now rising up in rebellion against the sitting governments. France, Macron, Germany, Merz, UK, Starmer. So that's going on. And that banks in Europe are on the brink of being insolvent, as are global banks such as the World Bank Plus. And we see continuing increase in value in silver and gold. So that's going on. And we have this from Fox. Yeah, we had the Paris meeting of NATO. Europe puts forth boots on the ground. The U.S. has said for security once peace is established in Ukraine. The U.S. has said no U.S. boots on the ground in Ukraine, and Meloni of Italy also says no Italian boots on the ground either. So that's going on. And we have this that from CBS that President Trump tomorrow is having a meeting in Florida with major U.S. oil companies, including Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil Plus, to discuss moving forward in Venezuela. We have this from New York Prepper. I also have other sources who, in my previous video I put out, we saw about 12 C-17s, large cargo military planes, going to the UK and then on to Ramstein in Germany. Analysts speculated that this was to deliver troops and equipment for a possible U.S.-Israel hit on Iran. Now, President Trump a few days ago made the public statement that we know protests have been going on in Iran now for about 7 days. President Trump said, if the Iranian government military begins to kill its own citizens who are protesting the government, that the U.S. will come in. And I can report in the last 24 hours, there have been 4 more C-17s going to the UK. Now, yesterday, New York Prepper put this out from sources inside Iran. The Iran military, the IRGC, and also another paramilitary group,
I hope you had a good visit, Ab.
have begun to machine gun kill Iranian citizens in the streets of Iran as the citizens protest against the Ayatollah regime. So we see, it's highly likely that we can see in the next now it would probably be about 48 hours, a combined U.S.-Israel strike on Iran. And we had a total of 14 C-17s in the last 2 days coming out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is the base for special forces, the same type as was used in Venezuela. Can it be that we might see a repeat of what we saw in Venezuela?
Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
With the special forces, Delta forces, Army forces, part of the greatest military in the history of the world, the U.S. military, going into the hidey hole of the Ayatollah Khomeini and taking and extracting out of Iran the Ayatollah and possibly President Pogoshian, or maybe President Pogoshian is working with President Trump. We'll have to wait and see. It's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, that's a little better one there with, on her time. Okay, 16 minutes. I think that was a short one. Okay, we got 10. Oh wait, how long is this one? Nine minutes.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. I have a producer watch The View every single day, so you don't have to, and so that we can catch moments like this. It's probably the smartest political analysis that's ever happened on set at The View when Whoopi Goldberg farted and burped at the same time.
That he cared enough about his wife.
I got a video for you, Ed. Coming up next.
That was gas. And we'll still believe that he cared enough about his wife to pay that was gas.
Really well done by everyone here. I love how everyone just sort of like ignored the fact that this happened and said, well, that was really thoughtful. The second best moment ever in the history of The View is the day after the election, when the women of The View opened up all teary-eyed and miserable looking and admitted total defeat. Whoopi Goldberg saying, so how do you feel?
So, how you feel? I'll start. Yeah, go ahead. My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy.
How do you feel? This is great. There's no farting or burping in this moment. But there was this reaction to a moment when the women of The View had a longtime panelist and co-host say that she loves Donald Trump. And this came as quite a shock to everyone. This is a very happy day. View audience left shocked and stunned as woke anti-MAGA co-host defends Trump's arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Well, that'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. Ana Navarro, who's from Florida, who was born in Nicaragua, said that she cried tears of joy for Donald Trump. The audience members were stunned. The host defended Donald Trump, going against the stances of fellow liberal panelist members. The talk show opened the episode of the morning about the astonishing capture of Nicolas Maduro. Ana Navarro said that, and I love how they do this, Ana Navarro, a Republican. Oh, okay, Republican. Who was the last Republican that she voted for? She gave Joe Biden a tongue bath the last time he was on The View. She listed why she and other Hispanics are celebrating ousting of the dictator, interrupted co-host who asks, are you okay with the way it was done? Without skipping a beat, Navarro quickly made the point that you can celebrate without questioning if the extraction of Maduro and his wife from their home was correctly done. There we go.
And who voted for this? The people in South Florida, the Venezuelan community, the Cuban American community, the Nicaraguan American community voted for this. And for us, this is a very, very happy day when we see a dictator who has been part of oppressing and abusing the Venezuelan people for 25 years, when we see him in handcuffs and held to some sort of accountability. It brought me to tears. It brought me great joy. And, you know, I live in South Florida.
But are you okay with the way that it was done?
But you can, I think both things can be true.
Okay.
I think you can criticize and ask questions and have concerns about the way it was done and what this means in the future.
Right.
And I think you can still celebrate that this murderous, corrupt, sadistic son of a bitch is out of Venezuela. Because he has, I think there's 8 million Venezuelan exiles all over the world. People have fled from this man's tyrannical rule. So for me,
well, that's a bit of a white pill that we never saw coming. And this is why we say that Donald Trump's probably going to win the Hispanic vote after this. I live in a city with a lot of Hispanics. I live in a city with a lot of Cubans. And I can tell you what, man, I got a neighborhood with lots of Cubans in it. And these people love President Trump. They hate communists. And if you want to win the Hispanic vote in America, you should go hard against the Latin American communist cartels. And, you know, the people who had this right, which is crazy, is Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. You know, Joe Biden put a $25 million bounty on Nicolas Maduro's head, and then they're all crying in the streets when he's arrested. What the hell is that? And this is a cognitive dissonance that, again, you could normally maybe only find on The View. You can't be upset when the thing that you wanted to have happen actually happens and Trump goes ahead and just does it. Ladies and gentlemen, hits back at Whoopi Goldberg. Who voted for this? We voted for this. This is a very happy day for all Hispanics. Also, she brings up the migrant crisis, which, you know, don't think too hard about it, Ana Navarro, but the guy that you love the most in the whole wide world, Joe Biden, a guy that, again, you gave a tongue bath to when he was on The View. I'll play you that clip. That's the guy who used the migrant crisis in Venezuela in order to bring as many Venezuelans to America as possible to rig our elections and kill people like Laken Riley. So, I mean, I'm glad that you're coming around on this. Now tell Hispanics to vote for Trump. I had to watch this twice to make sure it was real. Ana Navarro, for us, this is a very happy day when a dictator who's been a part of oppressing and abusing Venezuelan people for 25 years is in handcuffs. It brought me great joy. She was crying, great joy. In fact, her reaction, her initial reaction live on TikTok here shows that she was actually crying tears of joy. Here we go.
So today for me is a good day because Maduro is out. He is a son of a bitch. I hope this sends a message to the other sons of bitches in the region. You may disagree with the way Trump did it, but it's done. There was no way that it was going to end any other way, because once he started bombing boats, and we've bombed boats and alleged drug boats and killed over 115 people. I think Trump thought getting rid of Maduro was going to be easy and Maduro was going to scare easily. He didn't. It took him doing this. So yeah, he did it without congressional authorization. This was an act of war, all of these things, but it's now done. I think it doesn't escalate from here because the objective of this was to get Maduro out. And certainly there's an oil component. Certainly there's a lot of Trump ego in this about, you know, being able to do it, but it's done. And I, for one, I am very happy that Maduro is out, and I pray and hope for the freedom and peace of Venezuela.
Fanatic Sportsbook Fan Cash explained by Libby Dunn on a blocking sled.
We always give up to 10% fan cash on your...
Join me in that, please.
So this is going pretty viral because moment of clarity on The View, obviously. Did I really just hear that right now? Hell is officially frozen over. The voice of reason on The View praising Donald Trump.
We'll be going to
They know how important it is. The ladies on The View supporting Trump removing Maduro. Ana Navarro says she's happy that Maduro's gone, no matter if Trump did it. They celebrate Maduro's capture. Okay. So that's the good, the bad, and here's the ugly. I'm moving to Canada for sure this time. Canada doesn't want you, whoopee. Nobody does, says Donald Trump. Anna Navarro on ABC's The View with Joe Biden. You're like a straight white guy. Joe Biden responds by saying something like chocolate chip ice cream and Ray-Bans and sunglasses. Anna Navarro, who's personal friends with Biden, as she notes that we just passed the first 100 days of Trump's second term, they act out a prearranged skit of doing the sign of the cross in unison. Here's the clip I'll leave you with. So, like, eat your words, lady. Come on, what a monster. She's like talking about how terrible Trump is, and then she's praising him when he does something that you like. And then doing this little bit with Joe Biden. How long did that take you, by the way, in rehearsal? There you go. I'm not saying you should trust these women. I'm just saying it's great to make them eat it.
So, Mr. President, we just marked last week Trump's 100th day in office. And for some of us, it's felt like 100 years. Maybe you could be the next pope. You have
that's Trump. He
oh yeah.
Okay, Benny there. Oh. Guess who?
Versus Madison, which was a landmark case and a landslide case in 1803, and says that any statute that bears the appearance, or in layman's term, looks like a law but doesn't support the Constitution, is null and void. All right, so we have a lot of Americans, and even some on the Republican side who don't even know this, that our very foundation, the original Constitution, all right, specifically says in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1, that the president to serve 4 years in a term. It never says that the Congress is supposed to do this, and that. There's some of our phrases, or whatever you want to call it, clause sections in our Constitution that is a command that the Congress is to do something. This is not that. And James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, two of the authors, but there's your main author of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, James Madison. Both of those men said that they thought that presidents should serve unlimited lifetime term. All right. They actually feared a puppet monarchy, which is the puppet government, because leaders can be puppeteered by all this stuff back here. They feared a puppet monarchy more than they did a quote unquote, what the liberals are calling a king. So where you get your corruption is 1871, 1878, 1913. President Trump's already said our nation from 1871 to 1913 had more money than it knew what to do with. Well, guess who knew what to do with it? The deep state. They did exactly what Colonel Sellers was talking about. It's a trough. Both sides of the aisle figured out. Well, the American people, they don't know what's going on here in D.C. They don't know what's going on here. Legislative, executive, judicial. All right, they built their own democracy up there. They did up there, not we the people. All right, so in 1941, we've talked about this before on another panel where we did the D-Day, but we talked about 41 and Roosevelt. Well, I think those men probably meant a little bit more better then, but they still were under that umbrella. But 1951 is when Congress put term limits on the president in the 22nd Amendment. Why didn't they put term limits on themselves? So see, that's where we really went downhill right there. 1973, the War Powers Act of 41 and 42 were amended in 73. That's when the Congress and that pit trough that Colonel Sellers was talking about, that's when they tried to limit the president and put it to where he could only declare national emergency to use the military and give Congress a 48-hour window to deem that constitutional or not. All right. Now, we have opened many executive orders with many national emergencies from that time period. I think it's about 60 from 73 to 2016. All right. And they just left them open. All right. They never did anything. That was their diplomacy. That was their bureaucracy. So that 73 is exactly what Lieutenant Colonel Bosey just said. President Trump took all their playbook, took all their corruption, took all their bullcrap laws, and he's using it against them. all right, because they put it on the paper. So in a layman's term and for the target audience, all you have to do is say, okay, if it's against the law, if it's against the Constitution, then why did they leave it in the law? Why did they write it in the law? And why did they leave it there? All right, so enforcing of the law is more powerful than writing of the law. They should have never wrote the law if they don't want it enforced. They should have never kept it in the law if they don't want it enforced. So President Trump, the military, the generals, the admirals, et cetera, the active duty reserves, the National Guard, and the world leaders, all a part of this, are using all of their playbook against them. And there's not a thing in the world they can do to stop it. There's not a thing in the world they can do or say as well, because it will, anything they say against it reflects back on, well, why were you a leader of that? Why were you a writer of that? Why were you a contributor of that? So see, yes, he can most certainly serve again. And everything from 1871 to, the present day, but it wouldn't be the present day. It'd really be 2016, because there was a line drawn in the sand. 45-47 is an operation. It is truly a resetting of the Declaration of Independence. We don't even have to talk about the Posse Comitatus, the Insurrection Act, and all those things. We're back to the Declaration, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations, when they become destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish and reset it on its foundation. That foundation is our founders, and that's exactly where we are. So when you hear chatter about the Insurrection Act and Posse Comitatus, James Madison goes into the Supreme Court, Marbury versus Madison, which was a landmark case and a landslide case in 1803, and says that any statute that bears the appearance, or in layman's term, looks like a law but doesn't support the Constitution, is null and void. All right, so we have a lot of Americans, and even some on the Republican side who don't even know this, that our very foundation, the original Constitution, all right, specifically says in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1, that the president to serve 4 years in a term. It never says that the Congress.
Sorry about that. I went over. Okay. That was one. I'm trying to find another one for you. And what we got here? Not that one.
Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, adjusted course and accelerated,
This is part
forming
two.
a two-ship response force racing to intercept the attackers. But Stone still had to survive long enough for help to arrive. With the Venezuelan formation tightening around the crippled cutter, Stone's gunnery crew kept the 57mm battery firing at its highest sustainable rate. The gun hammered out round after round, throwing up splashes and metal fragments near the approaching hulls. The shots weren't meant to sink. They were meant to slow, to intimidate, to break the momentum of the boarding teams preparing to storm the American ship. The Venezuelan vessels maneuvered aggressively, using their larger size and heavier armament to box Stone in. One ship crossed the bow, forcing Stone to swerve to avoid a collision. Another moved down the starboard side, closing to a distance that made small arms fire a real possibility. The third hovered astern, matching Stone's attempts to reposition, cutting off every escape route. Stone's engines strained. Fire crews fought through thick smoke. Medics worked on the wounded while the deck trembled from each impact. The cutter was still in the fight, but the situation was tipping toward collapse. If the Venezuelan ships managed to get alongside and deploy a boarding team, the cutter would be outnumbered, outgunned, and dangerously exposed. Every minute mattered, every second mattered, and help was still miles away. By 1424, internal assessments warned that Stone could soon lose propulsion if the fires spread toward the engine room. The ship's commanding officer issued a hard turn, buying a few more meters of distance from the nearest Venezuelan hull. The 57mm gun fired another rapid burst. The cutter was still resisting, still clawing for time, but the weight of firepower around it was overwhelming. Stone was holding on, barely, but the danger of being seized was real and growing. Gravely was only minutes from missile range now, and the battle was about to turn upside down. By 1430, after nearly 10 minutes of resistance from USCGC Stone, the first decisive shape of American naval power finally closed into the battle space. The guided missile destroyer USS Gravely, which had been running at maximum throttle from the moment Stone's Mayday hit the network, now pushed into the outer edge of its offensive envelope, a zone where the ship could strike long before Venezuelan crews even realized that help was coming. Inside the Combat Information Center, the AN/SPY-1D radar array completed a full sweep of the sea and locked onto all three hostile vessels, capturing clean signatures of their formations, headings, and firing patterns. Operators called out each confirmation in a cadence sharpened by training and urgency. With Stone's data feed merging seamlessly into Gravely's fire control picture, the destroyer now saw the battle with perfect clarity. One Venezuelan ship maneuvering to block Stone's bow, another sliding down the starboard side for a potential boarding run, and a third holding a trailing position that would cut off any retreat. All three represented active, lethal threats, and all three were well within the weapons range Gravely needed. At 14:31, another burst of compressed images arrived from Stone. Flames spreading across the aft deck, fresh structural fractures near the waterline, and repeated confirmations that the Venezuelan vessels were attempting to box the cutter in. Damage control teams aboard Stone were fighting to contain two major fires, but the engineering readouts indicated a rising risk of propulsion failure. Every second without support increased the odds that the cutter would be immobilized and boarded. The destroyer's captain, reviewing both the tactical assessments and the latest report of Venezuelan shelling, understood immediately that the window for saving Stone was collapsing. The incoming threat was not speculative or ambiguous. It was a coordinated attack by armed naval vessels on an American ship operating in international waters. Within seconds, he issued the directive that would define the entire engagement. Threat lethal, permission granted. The words triggered a cascade of action. Fire control officers initiated the launch program, weapon safeties unlocked, and digital targeting assignments lit up across multiple stations. Crews strapped into their positions as the destroyer's launch cells cycled into ready state. At 14:32, the first RGM-84 Harpoon sank power.
Okay, that was part 2. This is part 1.
And kill them because they're trying to, and they are killing and poisoning the American people.
At 14:17 in the Eastern Caribbean Sea, the USCGC Stone was wrapping up the final steps of a major narcotic seizure. Evidence teams had already documented tightly packed bundles stacked across the stern, part of a shipment valued at more than $84 million. The operation had been carried out with steady coordination, and the cutter resumed its patrol in what appeared to be a calm stretch of international waters. That calm ended abruptly. 3 fast-moving vessels appeared on Stone's radar in a tight formation, closing distance with no broadcast, no identification, and no change of course. Their approach pattern resembled a deliberate intercept, and within seconds the lead ship advanced ahead of the others. At 14:18, a 76mm round struck the cutter's stern. The impact tore through antennas, damaged communications gear, and sent fragments scattering across the deck. 7 American crew members were injured as alarms sounded throughout the ship. The Stone responded with controlled fire from its 57mm gun, targeting the closest vessel to break the formation. Yet the situation escalated quickly, as all 3 ships maneuvered into a position that suggested an attempted boarding in international waters. The engagement had begun, and the motivations behind that first shot remained unclear. Stay with military power. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next update in this developing conflict. The scale of the attack became clear within the first moments after impact. The USCGC Stone, still recovering from the initial strike that tore through its stern without warning, was suddenly forced into a fight it had not initiated. Smoke drifted across the deck, alarms cut through the ship, and the crew moved instantly to emergency stations as the situation changed from routine patrol to direct combat. At 14:19, with smoke still pouring from the damaged stern, USCGC Stone broadcast its first Mayday. The cutter transmitted its exact coordinates across emergency channels, pushing the alert simultaneously to US 4th Fleet and the Coast Guard Atlantic Area Command. The message was short, clipped, and unmistakable. Stone had taken heavy fire from Venezuelan naval vessels and was at immediate risk of being overrun. The distress signal raced through encrypted networks, bouncing across satellites and command hubs in seconds, while the crew fought flames and tended to the 7 wounded sailors. The ship's communications team forced the battered backup radios online, determined to keep the emergency traffic flowing, despite the destruction of the primary antenna array. By 1420, the situation had already escalated beyond a simple tactical incident. The Fleet Command Center received Stone's data stream, and operators immediately flagged the engagement as a confirmed hostile attack against a U.S. vessel in international waters. The information was automatically relayed to the National Command Authority, ensuring that senior decision makers were updated within moments of the first shots being fired. Across the system, alert statuses shifted. This was no longer a standard interdiction patrol. This was a live naval engagement. At 1421, the Venezuelan ships pressed their advantage. The lead vessel fired another 76mm blast, aimed lower and closer to Stone's waterline. The shell smashed into the aft section, sending a shockwave through the hull. The cutter tilted several degrees as a fireball rolled across the deck, the earlier blaze now joined by a second ignition point. Damage control teams scrambled with hoses and extinguishers, while the engineering crew fought to keep power stable amid the tremors and heat. Stone was taking damage faster than repairs could keep pace, yet the cutter did not break. At 1422, the ship's technicians brought the tactical data network online, routing through secondary power systems and the remaining intact antennas. Grainy but usable images captured by onboard cameras were sent to U.S. commanders. Burning metal, black smoke, shrapnel-scarred rails, and unmistakable proof that multiple Venezuelan ships were converging for a boarding maneuver. The transmission ended with a...
And so we will track them, we will map them, we will...
Okay, those are 2 important videos. My last 3 will be about 5 minutes. Patriot Princess is 4 minutes.
Happy birthday, Erica!
No one at the time knew who Erica Kirk was, really. Happy birthday, Erica, 197. 1 + 9 + 7 is 17. 7 trumpets, 197. Like the EBS. Happy birthday, Erica. When is Erica Kirk's birthday? November 20th. That's 1120. Drop the 0, that's 112. Q post 112. Shutting down. Stay alert in main U.S. cities. More false flags imminent. This Q post was posted on November 5th, 115. Think Law of War Manual. Think shutdown. What can President Trump do during a shutdown? Think about the continuity of government. Think about the Law of War Manual. 112. Happy birthday, Erica. 11.2. Q post 112 posted on 11.5. 11.5 Law of War Manual. 11.5 in the Law of War Manual is duty of the occupying power to ensure public order and safety. That sounds like martial law. EBS. Happy birthday, Erica. Erica Kirk's birthday is 11/20. That's 1120. Drop the 0, that's 112. Q post 112 shutting down. Law of War Manual 11.2. (11.2) in the Law of War Manual is when military occupation law applies. That's martial law with military tribunals. Shall we play a game? The Democrats and the cabal wanted to use a shutdown to their benefit, but shall we play a game? We can play that game. And President Trump and the good military are going to flip it for the biggest boomerang ever for we the people. Look closely in this video. Trump is holding the red folder over his face. The red folder. What's in the red folder? The PEDS. the peds. And what if there's another Trump card in there? Happy birthday, Erica. Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk just got shot. And there was many pep rallies for his memorial. And President Trump just called an assembly. And this week is homecoming. QPost 3691. Snowden. Homecoming. What if there's strategic evidence in the red folder? Like QPost 173, blackmail. What if Snowden and Russia worked together? What if that's what was in the soccer ball that was passed to President Trump? A flash drive of evidence of blackmail. Shall we play a game? Tonight at midnight, it turns to October. Red October. What if Snowden comes back and takes over the airwaves in Red October and plays the Trump card? Happy birthday, Erica, 197. Q suddenly appears, 197. See you on the other side, 255.
You guys,
Operation Midnight Hammer, 255. Think Q post Santa with the hammer. Is tonight Christmas Eve? Are we going to wake up tomorrow to some good news like it's Christmas morning? Santa with the hammer.
Because it said on her page, it was below the today's videos. So I don't know if that was old or new.
Policies and doesn't understand the recent criticism. Well, the first problem is if you really wanted to know what was going on with the public, the last people on the planet you should be asking are the House Republicans. They're not going to tell you the truth. They'll tell you it's online anti-Semitism that's being paid for by influence by Qatar and Iran. I'll try and tell you the truth. So I'll tell you the truth from my perspective anyway. Campaigned on no new wars, but yet you've spent the majority of your first year as a president interfering in foreign conflict, while the rest of us really struggled this year. Okay, with inflation. You tell us there's no inflation, but our pocketbooks tell us that there is inflation. You tell us that the economy is better, but our pocketbooks say that the economy is not better. That tactic didn't work under the Biden administration, and it sure as shit isn't working anymore now. Everybody hates Lindsey Graham. Everybody hates Lindsey Graham. The tariff conversation, you built up and built up and built up and built up that we were going to get all this money from tariffs and that maybe eventually we weren't going to have to pay income taxes anymore. But so far, none of that has come to fruition. What you offered us instead was $2,000 checks. And I am firmly convinced you only offering us these $2,000 tax rebates in order to ensure that we're going to file our taxes. If the only reason you're doing that is because of the tax rule conversation that has been happening for a couple months now, and it finally caught fire. You built a ballroom. Fine, build a ballroom, fine, use rich people's money to build the ballroom. I don't really care if you build a ballroom, but I don't understand why that was made a priority in the first year of your presidency and why you've tried to make it such a big deal in the first year of your presidency when people can't buy homes. And instead of helping people buy homes or making sure that people were making enough money to buy homes or even cars at this point, you offer them 50-year mortgages, which is basically a precursor to universal and generational debt. The Epstein documents. You called it a hoax. We all know it's not a hoax. We know it's not a hoax. We arrested some asshat from Venezuela in the middle of the night, get him on a plane, flew him back to this country, and then are trying him in New York in like 14 hours. We couldn't arrest one person that was involved in the Epstein list. You know that they shouldn't be redacted. You know that there's names of very high-profile people on there that were sleeping with children. We arrested the president of Venezuela or the leader of Venezuela before we touched anybody domestically. When the Democrats were in charge during Joe Biden's administration, they ruined everything. The COVID stuff, okay, going to war for Ukraine, the money laundering, they ruined everything. And there was no accountability. There's not even any talk of accountability. The only thing that we continue to see is everybody out here telling us that we should be more grateful, throwing us these breadcrumbs, screaming at us that we should be more grateful. People of this country deserve better than that. You're giving us $2,000 tax rebate checks, but you're offering $3,000 right before Christmas for any illegal alien that is still in the country that's willing to deport themselves back. Gonna save us money in the long run. No, bring somebody in, find them, and deport them. They're all on the welfare system anyway. Do a fucking audit. Just come in and deport them. Uphold the law. National Guard into all these big cities. and deport them. So just do it. Instead, you're bribing them. And then they can go back with their $3,000 check, and then they can come back again. They got to do it legally this time. Sending millions and billions of dollars to both Israel and Ukraine while Americans are stuck here with 50-year mortgages. Did you know, and you have to know this, you're the president, that Israel has free healthcare, that Israel has free, they get checks for every month for every child that they have? Did you know that they get checks for maternity leave? They have free schooling. They've got everything. Israel already has that. We don't have that, but Israel has that. But we keep sending the money. We pay for that when we can't afford to have that of our own. That's a problem. Doge audits. What happened with that? Why are we not holding more people accountable with the Doge stuff? Is anybody arrested? Is anybody going to be arrested? Shrimps on treadmill. How many millions of dollars for shrimps on treadmill? Is anybody going to be held accountable for any of that? There's too much foreign influence in our Congress, in our presidency, in everything. There's too much foreign influence. There's too much foreign lobbying. The riddles. Can we stop with the riddles? Every time something happens that is viewed relatively unpopular by the public, by you, to you, okay, all of a sudden we start posting Q stuff. It's old. It's tired out. It's done. With the riddles. We don't want riddles. We don't want riddles. We want transparency, and we want accountability, and we want to see it. We want it. That's what we want. That is what we voted for, and that is not what we're getting. We're getting more riddles. And I feel like this is just a few of the things that people are extremely disappointed in. So if you really want to, I doubt it, but if you really want to know, this is just a few. And I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts the people in my comments will also name some of their frustrations. If you really want to know, don't ask the influencer. Don't ask the GOP. They're busy taking selfies and writing books. If you really want to know, come and ask us.
That was good. I might have played it, but that was good to hear it again. Some people might have missed it. Closing out with Nick. Last video. One minute.
We're saying MAGA's divided. Well, we're all unified on at least one front, according to CNN, and that is Maduro and Venezuela. Take a look at this. It's absolutely incredible that they're saying this on national television.
About what the president's done in Venezuela?
Let me be very clear. There is no rift in the Republican Party. Yes, there are some folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie who are quite skeptical of this. They are very much in the minority. What are we talking about here? Well, why don't we just talk the GOP on the U.S. military ousting Maduro? Ipsos,
hey, Mike,
65% support, 6% opposed. How about the Washington Post poll? 74% support, just 10% opposed. If you look among 2024 Trump supporters, we're talking about 80% support. The vast, vast majority of Republicans are with Donald Trump on this issue. Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene are very much in the minority. Very few Republicans are with him.
You say they're with him on this issue. Do you even need those words, this issue?
No, I don't need the words, this issue, because the bottom line is this. Donald Trump has had an iron grip on that Republican base for a long period of time, and it is the same iron grip that he had 6 months ago. I know every so often people are trying to say, oh, I spot these little rifts in the Republican base. Oh, they're finally starting to break. They're starting to break from Donald Trump. It ain't happening, at least when it comes to the approval rating. Look at this. 84% 6 months ago, 85% now. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know 85% and 84% are basically the same number. In fact, 85% is 1 point higher than 84%.
So it's almost like they're shocked that their propaganda has been so ineffective that not only has his support maintained, it's actually increased by 1%. And clearly, this Maduro-Venezuela situation is massively supported, not just by Republicans, but by Democrats, by independents, by people, the 8 million people that fled Venezuela as it was a collapsing regime. All of them support it, and many of them are here in the United States. What he did is massively, massively popular and supported. So what I want to say in this video is if you look at the conservative conversation happening on X, all these influencers that are actively trying to divide MAGA, and I'm not going to name any names because that's just a no-win situation. If I call anybody out immediately, it's going to be divisive, and I'm not about that. I actually went down that road last time I had a channel calling people out and getting into this drama and that drama. I'm not doing any of that. But a lot of these people would have you believe that Trump has lost the support, has lost his base, and is not as popular as he once was. And clearly, that's not the case. His GOP rating went up in the last 6 months, and clearly he has an iron grip over the Republican Party. And to all these people saying, we're going to lose the House in the midterms, well, Susie Wiles now has Trump campaigning for Republicans in the midterms, and this whole concern that his name's not on the ballot and we're low propensity voters. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised what happens between now and the midterms in terms of the economy and, you know, in terms of the geopolitical power structure. A lot of people are starting to wake up and realizing that what Trump does is actually effective. It just takes time. And by the time we get to the midterms, a lot of the things that he set in motion are going to actually start to bear fruit. So I'm actually very encouraged, guys, and I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments section. CNN is admitting that Trump has an iron grip on the Republican Party and that his support is actually up with this situation with Maduro and Venezuela. Now, the question is whether or not that support with the GOP, which constitutes like 35% of the eligible voters in the country, will that support translate to the broader general public and the independents by the time we get to the midterms? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okay. Just off by a few minutes here, 10 minutes, every 2 hours. A lot of news out there. So till tomorrow night, about 5 or so, unless I get busy tomorrow afternoon, around 5. Hey, Samantha. Yeah, we'll be here tomorrow night about 5 or so. I'll be busy tomorrow. So, 2 good shows today. So thanks, Kay, Lucy, Tim. And God bless everybody. Love all. Remember, please hit the like. Where'd my sign go? Stay safe, stay strong, keep the pace, stay warm wherever you're at, East Coast. You're in the West Coast. Lucky you. I miss my Arizona weather. So, yeah. Signing off. Chico dude, and never give up. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night.